Hi, this is Dave, Fell Running Guide. Welcome to this week's navigation task. This week we're looking at night navigation. We've got to get from A to B, but in the dark. Now this was an actual task that I did with a client last month. So what you need to know is A to B, the vegetation looks like that. So knee-deep heather and it's dark. So how are we going to get there? So there's a couple of things to think about. Firstly, what is the feature that we're aiming for? So we're looking for this strange hachures feature here. We want the center of it, so it pays to know what we're actually looking for when we get there, certainly in the dark, so that would help. And the other really important thing is to look at, we've got these green dashes, this green dashed line running down to our feature. I can't stress this enough. Green dashed lines are rights of way. They're not necessarily paths on the ground. So here, black dashed lines, and over here, black dashed lines. These are paths that are known to exist, but if they're just green dashes, it's a public right of way. But if nobody walks on it, there might not be a path there. There might be one there, but there might not. We can't guarantee, we can't just assume that that is going to be a path. So be aware of that. So let's have a think about some of the things we had to think about there. I've gone to my mapping software for this. So if we were to start at A and go in a straight line over to B, that distance there is 590 meters. So call it 600 meters across that deep, horrible heather. And then the actual, if we were to try and do that, we're aiming at this feature, but we've only got like a narrow, quite narrow angle to aim for, and we've got a slope running left to right as we cross this ground. So it's not inconceivable in the dark when you've not got a distant feature to aim for. You're just walking on a compass bearing, looking at it and maybe trying to spot out a little clump of heather maybe 20 feet ahead of you. What we might end up doing is we think we're going in a straight line, but what we actually do is we side slip ever so slightly. So we think, yeah, we're on that bearing, but just gradually we slip down slope, and the next thing we've done is we've arrived at the road and thought, oh dear, that's not right, we shouldn't be here. So how can we avoid that? Well, what we decided to do was actually start here and go up this wall line. See this black line? This is a boundary. We walked up here and we measured out 500 meters, so half a kilometer. So we didn't have to worry about keeping on a bearing. We just checked that the wall was going in the right direction and walked up it, counting paces for 500 meters, also timing. So if you've got a good idea how quickly you cover a kilometer on that type of terrain, then you just halve that, because we're doing 500 meters, half a kilometer. That gets to this point here. And then we just turned 90 degrees to the wall, walked on a bearing of, I can't remember exactly, but maybe about 80 degrees into that. And by doing it that way, we've got a much bigger feature to aim for. If we slip off our bearing slightly, we're still likely to hit this. So it gives us a much more bigger margin for error. So the final leg across there is 400 meters. So we've got 500 up the wall and then 400 meters across, so that's 200 meters less of heather bashing than the direct line, and a broader feature to aim for. If we were to pick up this public right of way on the way across and it was an actual path on the ground, then all well and good. As long as it's going in the right direction, we could then follow it, but not assuming that it is going to be there. So yes, it's a slightly longer way of doing it, but it's certainly less room for error on that. So what about the feature that we're aiming for? What were we actually looking for in the landscape? Well, I've got a photograph of that. So it's an archaeological feature, a ditch and bank, or a ditch and embankment. And this is what it looks like. We're in the middle of it here, looking down, so downslope, looking southeastwards. In the daylight, it's quite obvious. It's a ditch. You'd think that if you came upon that, you'd notice it. But I have actually been there with clients in daylight looking for it, and they didn't recognise it as the feature, probably because they didn't really know what they were looking for. So that's what we're looking for. So that is how we did it. There are other ways. Possibly you could just walk across on a contour, so not going uphill or downhill, maintaining just above 365 meters, and you might wind your way in through these boulders and in, but you're still doing 600 meters of heather bashing in the dark, which is best to be avoided. So you might have other ideas of what you do. That's what we did. That's what worked. Thought it was a safe way of doing it. That's this week's navigation task. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Look out for next week's challenge. Bye for now.